Good afternoon, everybody. Luke from Reata Ranch and Reata Horsemanship here. I got another horse today. His name is Big Boy. This is him behind me. He's very skittish, very spooky. He's a problem horse for sure. The owner that I got him from, she's had him with 4 different trainers, 2 of them who were professional trainers, and they weren't able to get a whole lot out of him. One gal did get at least got him riding some, and then he kicked her pretty good in the thigh, so she decided he wasn't worth it to keep training. So he went back to the owner, and then went to a couple of Navajo kids and another professional trainer. I shouldn't say kids, some Navajo guys. 2 of them, I guess, that we're gonna put 30 days onto him. He bucked like crazy with them. The owner took him back, and as you can hear him snorting in the background, he's very skittish, very spooky. The last owner that had him was 6 days, and apparently he put some panniers on him and he bucked like crazy, and so the original owner took him back. She bred this horse, well, he was born on her ranch here in Ignacio, Colorado, and he's 7 years old. Like I said, he's Big Boy. His name is Big Boy. And he is a bucker. The guy that just had him for 6 days wanted to use him in the bucking ring. I should say has a bucking stock in the rodeo ring. The owner didn't like that idea, and so she has been following me on Facebook and decided that she would give me a try. We don't live too far from where her ranch is, and I want to give this horse a try, see if we can make something out of him. Like I said, like I always say, our motto is to make the most out of every horse. And let's see if we can make the most out of Big Boy and see how this goes. So I'm going to get the camera set up, and then we'll get started. I'm basically going to go through a succession of exercises and desensitizing exercises that are certainly going to spook him pretty good. I just want to see how he reacts and how he responds to what I do, and we'll go from there. All right. Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Facebook and YouTube. And you saw the introduction already, and so you kind of understand where this horse is coming from. He's a chronic bucker, a dangerous horse. Nobody thought he could be well trained and be a good, calm, and safe horse. So we took him on at Reata Horsemanship, and we thought we could make something of him. He's a beautiful paint horse. He's got great conformation. He's about, I would say, at least 16 hands high, 16 hands tall. He's got some good height on him, nice long horse. And he also moves quite agilely, very agile and athletic. So what I'm doing now is round pinning. When I first start out with a horse, I put him in a round pin, and I start moving him around the round pin. What I do is I point to get them to increase their speed. And then I cluck, and then I start to spank the ground with the whip, or we call it the stick and string. With the string, start to spank the ground. And if I have to, I'll move in towards him and tap him on his butt to get him to move forward more quickly. So the goal is to get him into a canter and then try to keep him there initially. Now what I just did there, this was the first success I had with him in the round pin. This took about 10 minutes or so, but you see how he's looking towards me? So what I'm trying to do is, as I'm moving him around, then I'll step in front of him, and instead of him turning away from me and showing me his butt, I want him to look towards me and show me that respect. So if he shows me his hind end, that's disrespectful. If he shows me his face and his 2 eyes, that's respectful, and that's what I'm asking him to do here. Now, there, see how I stepped in front of him a little bit, and he showed me his hind end and tried to cut back the other way by showing me his hind end. There he goes again. So what I do is I just move back to his other side whip the ground, and put a little pressure on him and make him go back the same way. I'll keep doing this until he eventually will stop and look at me, and ultimately stop and turn in towards me in order to go back the other way. He showed me his butt there, but it wasn't as aggressive, so I didn't go at him too aggressively. Move him into a canter. Point, cluck, whip the ground. Now he looked at me. So instead of showing me his butt and turning away from me, he looked at me. Now look at him paying attention to me. This is one of the first real changes that he showed here. He's paying attention to me. He's thinking, who is this guy? I've never had this done. And I don't know whether or not he's had round penning work in the past, but I do know that he was really poor at it. This was one of his biggest holes in his training was the round pen work. He was very disrespectful and spooky, running from me. There he goes, he looks in again. So I'll step away. Now I walk away. What that does is I look away and walk away and just kind of ignore him a little bit. That releases pressure. Horses don't learn from pressure, they learn from the release of pressure. So as he gives to me, as he shows respect, as he looks towards me, I move away from him, releasing that pressure, and it rewards him. When I release the pressure, he feels that reward, and it makes him want to do that again. Now what I'm doing now is he's looking in towards me, and I'm trying to point and get him to come in and go the other way. Again, I don't want him to go the other way by facing away from me and showing me his hind end. I want him to go the other way by looking towards me, moving in towards the center, and then going back the other way. So this was about an hour, probably around an hour process that we went through in the round pen. Maybe an hour and a half. I wasn't sure how quickly he'd come along. He obviously had some bad habits and some big holes in his fundamental training. But I paused it here because I want to show you this is just before he makes a huge change and goes back the other way correctly. So now I'm put in slow motion. I point, see how he turned into me and then went back the other way. This was the second huge change that he made in his training within this hour and a half process. So the first change was that he would stop and look at me instead of stop and turn away from me and show me his butt. Now, of course, he's going to make some mistakes. You saw there, he made the mistake again. But again, we're going back the other way. Horses have two sides of their brain. Just because they learn something on one side, going one way doesn't mean that they're going to know how to do it going the other way. In fact, most of the time, it's almost like relearning it all over again. So I'm pushing him into a canter. I'm pointing, clucking, spanking the ground, and getting him to move forward more quickly. I stepped in front of him. He turned away from me, showed me his butt, so I put pressure on him again and sent him the same way. I always want to make sure I send him the same way that he was going if he shows me his butt and doesn't look in towards me. I want to make him feel pressure when he's doing the wrong thing. And as soon as there he goes, he turned away from me again, so I put pressure on him, sent him the same way. Now there he didn't spin completely away from me. He's thinking about looking at me. I'm putting a little more pressure on him. He's thinking about it. So I'm not pushing him too hard. I'm just putting a little pressure. He keeps almost wanting to look at me. And he looked at me. So I released the pressure completely. This horse, Big Boy, is a very, very intelligent horse. He's going to be a lot of fun to train. And as you will see in a little bit, I make a prediction. And it's coming up right now. I can tell you right now, I can guarantee this is going to be a great horse. Guaranteed. Okay, so that was my prediction. My prediction is that Big Boy is going to be one great horse. He's very smart. Now this is after just about 30 to 40 minutes of doing some round penning with him, and I could tell that he's going to be a great horse. So I'm really excited about Big Boy. I'm really excited to be his trainer, to be his last trainer. I'm excited that I'm his last chance and that we're going to make something great out of him. This truly is Big Boy's last chance. Now I went ahead and stopped the video and I worked with him 15 or 20 more minutes in the round pen because he just needed a little more work. I like to push a horse. Sometimes they need to crave some oxygen. And the release of pressure is allowing them to rest and breathe. And so I pushed him in the round pen for a while, for about 15 minutes. And now as you can see, he's made significant change here. So what I'm doing is getting him, he turned into me, and now I'm getting him to follow me in the round pen. And my ultimate goal is to get him to come right to the center of the round pen. And I want him to crave the center of the round pen. And this is the initiation of ground tying. People ask me, how do you ground tie? How can you teach a horse how to ground tie? Well, this is the first step in teaching a horse how to ground tie. Now this has many purposes. Getting a horse to come to the center of the round pen has many purposes. And I want to show you this right here because I got him to the center and I put my hand up and said, whoa. And then I came forward and I was able to get to the middle, get to his head and rub him between the eyes. So this again is release of pressure. Even though I came into him, I'm releasing the pressure as far as not asking him to follow me, not asking him to move away from me. I'm just letting him stand there. Now this is a good problem to have. I call it a problem because ultimately I want the horse to stand in the middle of the round pen and not follow me back out unless I ask him to with the right body cues. But generally I'll get him to stand in the middle of the round pen again for that ground tying teaching, and then I'll walk out, get my halter, get my lead rope, or my saddle and blankets, whatever it is. I want him to stay there. But if he follows me, initially I'm not going to correct that behavior because I don't want to unteach him what he just learned. Horses can unlearn things very quickly if you teach them the wrong thing. So real quick, I want to say right here, his head was relatively high. He likes to keep his head very high. I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'5", and so his head was quite high. Now, after a couple of times of putting a halter on him, I'm going to start teaching him to lower his head when I put the halter on or take the halter off. And I'll also do that with the bridle. So I want somebody, my 10-year-old daughter, to be able to put a halter on, take it off, put a bridle on, and take it off without him raising his head so high that she can't reach him. So in all my training, I teach horses to drop their head, lower their heads, in order to don and doff a halter and a bridle. And the last thing I do here in this training session is some desensitizing with the stick and string. He was a little bit nervous about this. He raised his head really high and was kind of backing up. And all I'm doing is whipping the stick and string, whipping that string to the ground until he stopped moving for at least around 10 seconds. And then what I'm doing is just lightly throwing the string over his back, over his withers, over his butt, and then even underneath on his girth area and his flanks. And I do this until he stopped flinching. It might take me a couple of minutes, it might take me an hour. But I won't stop until I see a change. And that change is he either decreases the amount that he's flinching, or he stops flinching altogether. And then I just increase that pressure of the stick and string by starting to swing it over my head, whipping harder, whipping closer to his legs. I want to get pretty close to his legs without hitting him, of course. So I want him to realize that no matter how much noise this object is making, it's not going to hurt him. And once he realizes that, he starts to become desensitized. And I did the same thing on his right side. Anything you do on one side, you have to do it on the other side. And whichever side is worse, do it twice as long. And then I do it in front of him. So I'm just whipping back and forth. And see, he's raising his head. He's got his ears perked. He's kind of throwing his head up and down because this makes him very uncomfortable. He doesn't like the whip moving close to his head. Well, that's all the footage I have for this day one. We didn't do any riding. We just did round pen work, and then I got the halter on him and did a little bit of driving around. I didn't get any video of that, but I did get some of the desensitizing. Like I've said, we're very excited for Big Boy. We think we're going to be successful on this last chance that he has, and we look forward to showing you more videos of him being fully trained eventually. Luke Brown from Reata Horsemanship. Every day's an adventure, and we like to make the most out of every horse. Talk to you soon.